February 14th, 2025. This is the S&P 500 E-futures mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. And this is how I drew it up. I didn't take a trade today. There was no real setup. There was maybe one setup early on, but I missed it. And there wasn't really anything else that set up because it was a low volume, low volatility day. So this looks like kind of a big, decent range. But if you look at the pre-market highs, it's just 61.46. Pre-market low is 61.21. That's a 25-point range. But if you actually look at the regular trading hours when things are actually moving, this is 61.45, and the low you could say is about 61.25. So it's only a 20-point range. And of that, most of the price action was just kind of chopping in about two, maybe three bar-sized candles. If you look at this little R value up here, and as I scroll across, you can just see like this is very, very slow price action. You get a random like maybe 3 bar from time to time, like this guy, 3.5, but everything else is just really slow. I think just everybody decided to take off for the 3-day weekend, plus today being Valentine's Day. It was just low volume, low volatility, kind of a boring day. Definitely should have been well, definitely had I known it was going to turn into something like this, it was probably just a take the day off type of day. There's economic data that came out was at 5:30, which is about right here, 5:30 Pacific Standard. A little bit of chop. It was the core retail sales. And then I think President Trump came out and spoke today somewhere around here, but it didn't really do anything for the market. So I only really marked two setups. Really won't take that long to go through this chart. Nothing, well, nothing really happened today. So being a no trade day was, I mean, I was a little bit in better control today because when I saw nothing, I did nothing. And I didn't try to indent a trade because there are second entries in here, but they're very bad contextually, because this is technical count. You can find second entries really easily, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a good trade because the trend or the context of what's happening could be against it. So kind of how I saw it today. For the pre-market, you got this spike up, two legs down, no real setup. Then it kind of rallies on this pretty nice fitting yellow up channel, breaks. I did see a first entry long, pull back, second entry long. So when I'm watching this in real time, I was thinking, okay, there's a measured leg. Looks like it's one leg down, pull up. There's this bullish bar here, but I don't really count it because it's still in part of this downward move in the second leg. So this actually made a measured move here, and it's a decent signal bar. It closed right at the EMA. I thought this is actually a decent trade to try to get, but I wasn't quite mentally there. I saw it, and then I also had to restart my whole computer because my timestamp or timing was off. For whatever reason, it thought I was in a different time zone. So this, it was just bothering me that certain things were kind of misplaced. Like this gray barrier was actually 1 hour behind. So it was actually starting my clock at in real time. It should be 6:30, but it was 5:30. It was just kind of throwing me off. So I had to restart it. By the time I got it set up, I saw it, but I wasn't really quite mentally prepared to take this. So then it kind of rallies on this yellow up channel, orange up channel. So the yellow made two legs down, break, test the high, hits this consolidation zone. There are second entries in here. Like there's a second entry right here if it's a doji candle, but then the range here is only about a little less than 2 points, a little less than 8 ticks. So even for a 1 point scalp, that's asking for a lot, especially when these candles all day actually were around the 8 tick bar size, and they're just side by side. There's no real big breakout. As I mentioned earlier, like the total range, total real trading range is about maybe 20 points. And it didn't even ping pong between the high and low. It just kind of meandered around. This is consolidation range. It has this failed breakout, and I thought it was a visual first entry long pullback, second entry long, but I wasn't too keen on this because I did have this as a trend line going up, but I wasn't too sure about it. It didn't really give me a lot of warm and fuzzy, so I was looking for a higher low, ideally right about here, but it never formed. Plus, I wasn't really confident this is going to be a successful failed breakout, that it would move back in, because the failed breakout itself, as you can see, it broke out pretty much the size of the range. So it's a pretty big move, which gives me concern because when the breakout is like so far from your original trading range, it might not even be valid, meaning the range might not be invalid. Usually, the failed breakout, I don't like it being bigger than what I think the range is. Because if it's too far out, then it's like, wow, it's a really big break. Unless there was, in this case, a support. But as I said, I had it, but I wasn't too sure. Waited for the higher low, which never showed up, and the trade wasn't there was no real trade. Plus, what gave me doubt is I wanted a cleaner first entry, second entry. All the things just didn't quite line up for a setup that I thought was kind of so-so. Pushes up, has a overshoot here. First entry, second entry, again, it's not good contextually. It is first entry, pullback, kind of hits this noisy second entry. Where you want to call second entry, technically here. By the technical count, it's actually here. The visual maybe here, but then it kept going down. So just sit on my hands at that point because it's just noisy. New high here, it's a first entry long, pullback. Technically at a second entry long here. I tried to see if there was a measured move here. First I tried this one here, and this one to here. It makes a pretty nice measured move. But then I also was playing in real time thinking, is there a smaller, kind of like two legs down in this big leg? It kind of failed, exceeded. Take this trade, I felt like would be picking a low. And on top of that, it is like visual first entry, actually new high, technical first entry, second entry, decent signal bar, but it feels like it's in the middle of nowhere. I don't really have any other justification. I was playing with the idea that there might be some kind of support here, like something right here, but then it's really only two touches. If it had touched a third time in here, then they would give me a little more confidence. So felt like it was just a little bit in the middle of nowhere. I just have to trust the strength of the two measured legs, which isn't good enough for this type of setup. So I just sat and waited, looking for a higher low. You kind of get a higher low here, but it's all part of this channel. It just also just kind of formed in the middle of nowhere. Well, not in the middle of nowhere. I ideally wanted to touch the EMA. It's hard to say that it's confirming this first entry, second entry, because second entry long is already below the EMA. So the higher low is above the EMA, but it's just kind of floating here. So context, it just wasn't there for me. Hits this new high, break of the green up channel, two attempts up, makes a new high, flushes down. Technically, you had a first entry long here, pullback. You have a second entry long here. Second entry long, plus it did move one tick down and pushed up and engulfed. I did consider this because it's a break of this orange down channel, break to the low. You could expect a corresponding overshoot to the high side, but I also felt that it was kind of picking the low. Seeing something like this, it is a higher low or a second entry long, however you want to count it. I decided in real time, okay, this seems okay. I'd rather see a higher low or a failed second entry short, because technically you have a higher low here, but I want a second higher low or a failed second entry short. Unfortunately, you don't get that. You do get the second entry short here, but then it's just like too far from the trade. Is it coming back down to test the low of this guy? I'm not sure. Break of this green up channel, is it coming back up to test the highs of this green up channel? I'm also not sure. So then it kind of comes around and it does form this. It's a new high. It's a first entry long pullback, creates a second entry long and triple test. Now, if you waited for this candle to close, I wouldn't have taken it. I would have needed to have trusted this setup because looks like it's first entry, about to create a second entry, potential triple test, made one attempt down, second attempt, third attempt, might be coming back up. The thing that was concerning me was I didn't have my trading range up here. I actually had it here. So my trading range is between this dark blue line and this dark blue line, or at least what I believe was forming a trading range. And you see the high here is 61.3350. You do have enough because there's about 6 ticks here. So I really only need 5 ticks, but it felt dicey. So decided to wait it out. Of course, it flushes up. This would have been a successful trade, but just barely. And then here would have, assured the clean exit. Kind of oscillates and it has this big spike down. It's this what I think is kind of the trading range here, because I actually had the low of the trading range right here. Now I moved the high of the trading range up here. So I'm just kind of sitting watching because there's a failed breakout there. Pushes down. I saw this as a new high, say first entry long pullback, second entry long. Second entry long, also a new low, first entry short, second entry short. I have it marked as an arrow, but not a real trade because I was thinking, is there going to be a failure here? But it's a break of this orange down channel, already tested lows, made a second attempt. How likely is it going to come back down and push down? Maybe it's going to move back into this range. Plus, there's not really that much room from here down to here for even a 1 point scalp. It's just kind of dicey. But I had just watching this play out, I was thinking it could probably move down, but that's just not good enough for a trade. It did flush down. It would have worked. Kind of oscillates. And this is just, prices are really slowing down now, right? It hits a low, moves back up. Technically a first entry short, second entry short, but this is your single bar for second entry short. I'm not really liking it. It's this congestion area. So this is just telling you to sit on your hands. You might find second entries for sure, but then the candles are just side by side. Total range move is only about 3, almost 4 points. So it's just like you're asking for a lot if you're going for 1 point scalp. You could probably get away with it, but when the candles are already almost spanning the entire move, it's just too congested. Breaks out, starts moving up. I draw this transparent up channel, but it doesn't really help at all because it did fit nicely up here, and I was hoping a continuation up and I could start trusting this transparent up channel. I'd color it in. It starts moving. You have a second entry long here. It's a doji inside bar to this, far from the EMA, nothing really going for it. Pushes down. Again, hits this choppy range action. Again, you have like these spindly dojis, which makes it a little more challenging to trade. Plus, they're taking a good deal of time to close. If you look at, as I scroll, if you look at the timestamps, it's at least 2 minutes, 3 minutes for these candles to close. So it hits this. I think the EMA is starting to act as resistance, but there's no clean setup that I particularly like. You have a new low, first entry short, pullback, second entry short. Second entry short here. I was thinking, am I moving back into range or is my range even valid? Because it kept making lower lows and lower highs. So this range, it was kind of suspect. I didn't really trust it. And for this first entry short, second entry short, I would have preferred a push up, at least a matching high, but ideally one break above, then flush down and close like it did. Then it would have trapped people, but it didn't. Because it would have trapped people thinking this is a first entry long pullback, second entry long, maybe a continuation, because they could have seen this as a potential higher low. So I was thinking first entry long, second entry long, potential higher low, might trap some people, but the setup wasn't quite there. Flushes down, kind of chops around, kind of bottoms here, but there's nothing I can do with this other than a triple test. So you could say this is technically a localized new high, first entry long, second entry long. It's not really the best signal bar. And this is, if you look at the timestamp, this is already 12:50 and moves into the close. So if you look at the entire chart, it looks very, very small. It looks very short because there's just a very little volume. And if you even look at from here to here, it shows that there are about 268 candles or 268 bars in a 1 minute time frame. It's 6 hours and a 6.5 hours. You get at least 400, at least 360 plus another 30 minutes, so about 390 bars. And you can already see how low we are, about 100 bars short of even a 1 minute candle chart. So ends up being a really slow day, not very many setups. I'm pretty much okay walking away with no trades because there's just I didn't want to just throw something out and hope it sticks because I've done that before. It never ends well, especially on a Friday where you just kind of it just burn into your mind and bother you, at least bother me for the whole weekend, especially a long weekend. So hopefully it was helpful.